Hello, welcome to another video from EarnPed.com. I am StevieB, happy to have you all with us today. We are here finishing up the last leg of the mini-mayhem event, so let's go ahead and let's check the share center and see how our CP shares did. Now I had about 30 ped in my balance as of earlier today, and now I've got 519.52. So because of this event, which remember started on Thursday, it is now late Sunday night at like 10:30 p.m. My 1,528 shares generated 480 ped worth of revenue over the past couple of days, which is absolutely insane in every sense of the word. That is quite impressive, if I do say so myself. So if you were an owner of CP shares going into this little mini event, which was unplanned in every sense of the word also, then you are definitely a big time winner, and that's part of the reason why the CP shares have really not been for sale the past couple of days, and why the prices have been going up for the past couple of days. You would have to be absolutely insane to even be offering them for sale going into the payout for this event. Now remember, the event's not done. There are still people here grinding it out, including myself. We will be doing so until early in the morning. I believe the event ends about 7 a.m. I do have to get some amount of sleep today at some point, but needless to say, we're just going to keep grinding this thing. Now, it has been a disaster of a mess from the get-go. You'll notice the mobs are shared loot. That's because at the last minute, Mindark finally realized what a bad idea this was. I actually was planning on having dozens of people come up here and just start a team with looter take all and me as the looter, and running a loot pill and just one shot, one kill every mob, just everybody doing 30, 40, 50 DPS. If you had, 50 people, it would take one shot, one kill, and we could have just fed me tokens. So at the last minute before the event, they made the mob shared loot, which avoids that and a lot of other complications. This was not a well thought out event. It's not even been a good event. It's been complete trash, in my opinion. I think over the past several days, running as much as I possibly could, I think I've looted somewhere in the area of like 300 total Mayhem tokens. To put that into perspective, I grind out 15 to 20,000 Mayhem tokens for a 3-week event. So there's usually a mission chain. Now that it's a mission-based grind fest, that's usually good for 5,000 to 7,000 tokens. There's also a daily mission, which is good for several hundred tokens if you go all the way through all 10 stages every single day, which obviously is something you want to do. Also in Mayhem, it's worth using all the pills, all the buffs, because you can just stand, shoot, stand, shoot, stand, shoot, stand, shoot. You don't have to move a lot. In fact, ideally, if you are in Mayhem doing it correctly, sorry, I was reading the chat, then you don't really have to move much at all, or by the time you do move, you've already got your next shot lined up and within range. Ideally, you want to be running a ton of buffs in Mayhem. You want to be running Accustim, Devistim, Hyperstim, Rings, whole 9 yards. This event is so piss poor that we're barely running candy canes. And the only reason we're running candy canes is they're account bound, and they give you that 10% reload speed. Now, I did get the FAP from Next Island. That gives you the extra 10% reload speed for a few seconds. I'll be making a video on it in the coming days also. So it gives increased reload speed by 10% for 8 seconds. By the time you actually use it and switch to your weapon, you're more like 5 to 6 seconds, if that. More like 4.5, 5 seconds worth of reload speed. But that plus the candy canes maxes me out at 20% for just a second anyway. So the Mayhem tokens do seem to drop in a little bit of a wave. They'll come and you'll get 3 or 4 back to back, and then you won't get any for quite some time. I have not hit an uber loot. I did get some pretty good globals. I have not hit a Hoff. I haven't been using anything really impressive. I'm using Armatrix rifles that are BLP with a relatively appropriate amp, because amps were kind of in short supply on auction due to the event, and an extender, and that's pretty much it. I am using my new crit ring instead of my reload ring, but I do have my reload helmet and my candy canes to make up for that. So whenever I very first started, I had 0 progress on my accessing the Crystal Palace Cave. You'll notice I'm almost halfway there. No way am I going to finish that out before the event's over. And I've got Kretlin Challenge to rank 10, 70% done. I've got Oriole Challenge to rank 10, 10% done. So had this been an all Oriole event, then I probably would be very, very, very close to unlocking the cave. Based off where the skill progress bar is, I'd probably be more like 80%. I think right now I'm at like 40, 43%, something like that. But because the Kretlin are mixed in, and I've actually been focusing on Kretlin, they don't do quite as much damage to me given my armor, and I don't have to use as much fapping, plus they run slower, so I can get more lifesteal in. So, what's the good, the bad, and the ugly? Well, the event is just overall ugly in every sense of the word. We knew that was going to be the case coming in. But I wanted to make this video to not only show you guys the horrendously good income that everybody's going to be having from their CP shares this week. I did the math. That should be roughly 30 to 32 PEC per share. So for a 17, 18 PED share that usually pays out 1 to 2 PEC a week, you're going to be getting a payout of about 30 to 32 PEC. Like I said, 480 PED divided by just over 1,500 shares, roughly 32 PEC a share. I'm assuming with a little bit of rounding, it's probably closer to 30. So, that being said, why do people come to Crystal Palace normally and forget the event? What is the draw? Why was it so obvious of a good investment whenever the shares very first hit the market? Well, we're in Dome 1. There's 4 domes, and they've only got these 2 mobs, Oriole and Kretlin, and they come in different maturities from weak up to, whatever, super high level. So, the whole gig here is, I call these the purple waffles, and I call these the old man junk, because it looks like it's old man junk just flailing in your face. Tell me that doesn't look like some old man junk. So, the old man junk here, the Oriole, are where most people start off. Now, used to, under the old Iron Mission system, you had to kill 5,000 of them. Now, with Codex, we have this progress bar we have to fill up. But once you can fill this progress bar up, there's an area in Crystal Palace where it's a flaming wall, and if you go to that flaming wall, you get access to the cave underneath Crystal Palace. This is kind of the important part, because in that cave, even though that doesn't directly attribute to the shares, I believe it's only what happens in the biodome that does. In that cave, that is where the Ubers grind relentlessly, and what they're looking for is mutated Oriole bone pieces. Those bone pieces are used to upgrade the 5B plates. Now, most people are aware of the Incision Plate upgrade mission on Next Island. There's a Siren mission for upgrading plates on Siren now. And I believe Arcadia has one also. I'm not 100% sure on that. But if you're familiar with any of those, the 5B plate upgrade mission was the very first. It's the great granddaddy of all the plate upgrade missions. So you upgrade them to adjusted and improved and so on and so forth. And as you do, you get block chance, 1% and then 2% and then 3%. And the protections improve also. So very, very valuable plates. I believe there's only one blueprint for 5B plates, and I believe Buzz owns it. I've tried to see if I could get my hands on a 5B plate blueprint just to make the regular 5B plates. I have never really had any luck with that, nor have I ever been able to verify if there's more than one. But I know Buzz has one for sure. Buzz, who used to own Crystal Palace and still owns a lot of the shopkeepers and shops up here. So you essentially take the 5B plates, you break them, I believe, and then you use the mutated bone pieces, and that upgrades the plates. And that's what gives you the adjusted, improved, modified, whatever. So those plates are worth a considerable amount of money, and therefore the bone pieces are worth a considerable amount of money. It's not some real big drawn out recipe. You just need the 5B plate plus the bone pieces. So once you can get into the cave, if you are high enough level and have enough DPS and enough defense skills where you can hunt those boss mobs in the cave and go up against the broods and stuff like that, you have a chance at looting those bone pieces and making PED, because it's all about the markup, right? So because of that, people will come here and endlessly grind to get this progress bar filled, or in the old system, the 5,000 kills was the barrier to entry, and they would come grind out that 5,000 kills. Well, those 5,000 kills alone are worth some serious, serious money as far as from an ownership standpoint. So that is why whenever Crystal Palace first came up for sale, it was such a no-brainer. Plus, this is a place people do like to come grind. Now, I can't verify 100% because I can't see the algorithm. I don't work at Mindark. I can't see what's going on the server. It seems like the loot returns from everybody I've talked to have absolutely sucked during this event. And it seems like this isn't how it would normally go on Crystal Palace. Like usually your returns would be a little bit better than what they've been the past couple of days. Again, I can't verify that. It's just empirical from talking to people who have hunted here quite a bit before. I have people who were halfway through the cave mission before the event and then came and finished it out while they were here, and they were like, yeah, it was way better the first time as far as TT return is. So from that standpoint, I can't really say anything. I do think it's not quite as brutal most days. I think because we're in the middle of the event, that probably has something to do with it. But why would you do this other than Codex? Why would you come hunt on this tax land area other than Codex? Well, I think a lot of players underestimate how valuable skills can be. And if you're one of those players who has extremely, extremely high levels of Codex on virtually every creature on planet, then it could very potentially be worth that 4.5–5% tax to come work on some Codex for creatures that you don't have a lot of progress on. It could very well be worth that kind of money. But in addition, there is a 1 in a bajillion shot that these creatures will actually drop rare loot. And when I say rare, I mean the rarest of the rare. Yesterday I was online. It happened here in Dome 1. And I saw it happen, and I know the person it happened to, and it was on the Hoff list, so I'm very, very aware that this was a real thing that happened because I saw it live and witnessed it and saw it on the Hoff list, and it was the same person that I was private messaging congratulations to. A friend of mine was hunting these level 33 Oriole Week and looted an unlimited female pair of Supremacy Foot Guards. Supremacy Foot Guards, you're talking 10, 15, 20,000 ped markup. Now, when he looted it, it was off a 58 ped global, and that accounted for 32 ped of it, so they were partial TT. I believe max TT on the foot guards for Supremacy is like 552 ped, but the markup is insane on those. It's somewhere in the area of, you know, depending on who the buyer is, 10, 15, 20,000 ped. Probably one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, armor sets in game, and it's the foot guards for it. The funny part is he's a male avatar and he looted female foot guards, so obviously he's going to be selling them at some point. I talked to him today. I asked him if he had any prices set or if he had any potential buyers, and so far he's kind of still in shock. He hasn't even put them on PCF yet or done any spamming in Cali Trade. But huge, huge, huge congratulations there. Now, the Kretlin have mainly been what I've been focusing on ever since I very first got here. Otherwise, my progress toward the cave access would probably be a little bit higher. And part of the reason is I know the Kretlin in the past have had an Uber loot equally as rare as the Supremacy Foot Guards. They've dropped an adjusted FAP, which is worth about 5,000 ped, and an improved FAP, which is worth about 50,000 ped. So obviously 1 in a trillion shot. But if I was going to come here anyway to grind out the event, to grind for those tokens, then obviously I was going to go for the big daddy of FAPs if I could. Now, it's not a mod FAP. There is a FAP better than an improved. There is such thing as a mod FAP. That exists. However, these don't drop a mod FAP, but these do drop adjusted and improved. There was an adjusted that dropped, I believe, about a year and a half, 2 years ago from a Kretlin up here. And I was kind of thinking maybe since it was an event, Mindark would drop a mod FAP in the loot, into the loot pool, or maybe, you know, set it to maybe a little bit higher chance. I don't really think they altered the chance of getting those Uber loots. I think it's just we've had so many people here shooting and so many kills have been recorded that we've just kind of started cycling through the loot pool and that magic number got hit. I did see on the wiki that somebody put that they got Sentinel Thigh Guards unlimited from Kretlin, which is very, very, very rare also. However, I was not able to verify that one. I wasn't even able to verify that one with the Hoff list for rare items on the Hoff. So I'm not 100% sure that one happened. I think somebody might have been updating the wiki because of the Supremacy Foot Guards thing and put Sentinel and put it under the wrong mob also just because they didn't have correct information. So I'm not 100% sure if that happened or not. But needless to say, even if the Supremacy Foots were the only thing that dropped, it was still really, really cool to experience. I did manage to loot a little bitty ESI, only the second ESI I've ever looted in game, so that was pretty cool. I also looted an unlimited weapon, not anything super, super special, but my heart did skip a beat there for a second when I thought it might be unlimited. Sadly, it was not. It definitely was not. So there were many, many tears after that. But overall, it's been a disaster of a mess. And that's the thing. People come to Crystal Palace to hunt because the Codex rewards, the cave access, getting into those caves, getting those mutated bone pieces. It's a money maker. For players who know what they're doing, that play smarter, not harder, yes, it's a loss leader. Yes, it's not as easy as just go out, farm the stuff, turn around, sell it, make money. There are prerequisites to it. But for people that know what they're doing, that can do it correctly, effectively, efficiently, it is a money-making opportunity. It's just like any other money-making opportunity, there's a barrier to entry. And I think that's something that we kind of subconsciously know about this game. You're not just going to be able to get in and be free to play and make $1 billion in 2 days. And I think a lot of people, knowing that subconsciously anyway, still try to do it, and it doesn't work, and that's how we lose a lot of new players. It's like anything else. Any business, any way that you're going to try and make income, it's going to require an investment of one of two things, either time or money, and probably both, and probably in large quantities. You're not going to get armor, faps, guns, skills, everything you need that costs tons and tons of real cash selling sweat. It's just never going to happen. So the Ubers in the game have put in a great investment of time and money into not just their skills, but their gear as well, and their in-game knowledge. And this is why I stress the way I think. This is why I stress research, and plan your stuff out, because that becomes very important later on. There gets to be a point where all the videos in the world don't help you. You have to be able to figure things out for your own. Some of the best kept secrets in game right now are so easy to find, it's ridiculous, and yet very few people have found them. Literally, it's right in front of people, and they just don't even see it. It's like not being able to see the forest through the trees. It's weird sometimes, but if you can make those investments in time, money, gear, skills, in-game knowledge, stuff like that, it can be very rewarding. So it doesn't necessarily matter that there's a loss leader, like a 5,000 kill point mission or a access the cave progress bar mission. The loss leader really doesn't matter, because you know you'll make it up once you get in there. So knowing that this was a disaster of an event from the very beginning, why did I even participate? Why am I even here still grinding it out when obviously it has cost me a ton of money to do so? Couple reasons. Number one, I do not yet have access to the cave. I will need that at some point someday. So if I can work on that while simultaneously doing other things, that is a factor. If I already had cave access, would I be here? I might have come and checked it out. Would I have stayed? Not nearly as long as I have. The Mayhem tokens were another really big problem for me. Yes, there has been a chance at getting a rare Mayhem token drop. I have not yet got one. Then again, I didn't get one at Halloween, Easter, or Christmas either. So that's really not a big thing. The biggest thing is the drop rate is extremely low. I think we've only grinded out about 300 tokens the entire time I've been here, but it is still a drop rate. So what happens if in October I make my big push to just finish up my Mayhem career, and there's 2 or 3 items I want in the vendor, and somebody beats me to all those items by 2 hours? It wouldn't be that they got lucky or they had a better setup. It would come down to one thing: they grinded out this event and I did not. In the old Mayhem system, when it was a competition, 1 kill made or broke a run. If you got a 5,000 point kill and I didn't, you were probably going to place higher than me. You were probably guaranteed to beat me at that point, which is why the competition sucks so bad to begin with. That 5,000 point kill never should have been that hard to get. It never should have been able to take somebody from 6th place and put them in 1st. But it did. And sometimes knowing how to play made you or broke you. There was one time that I won by 250 points, and the boss that would spawn every half an hour was worth exactly 250 points. Well, I wouldn't run the full 5-hour instance. I would run for 4.5 hours, and after I spawned the last boss, which was usually right around 4 hours and 26 minutes, or I'm sorry, 4 hours and 36 minutes, because it takes a little bit of time to kill the boss. It's not an instant kill. So it could theoretically spawn every 30 minutes. So by the time I was done killing it, if I went through the whole instance, and it usually took about 4:36, 4:38, something like that. So obviously there wasn't enough time left to spawn the boss again. Well, what I would do is I would do that 3 times. So by the time I rolled around to the 4th time, because it was a 20-hour competition, I'd given myself enough time, stacking up 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. I could get 1 additional boss to spawn. So I wouldn't go into the instance 4 times, I'd go into it 5 times, with the 5th time only being roughly about 53 minutes long, 53 minutes, something like that. But it was long enough to spawn one boss and then grind out for about another 20 minutes. Well, because I did that, and because I stacked my instances like that, I got exactly 250 points more than the person who came in second place for that particular mayhem. So had I not done that, we would have literally been tied. And I don't know how Mindark would have dealt with that in that situation, but that's how it worked out. So if I don't grind out the Mayhem tokens, even though it sucks that there's no mission that gives us lump sum tokens, even though it sucks there's no daily mission we can even go through, just getting the few hundred tokens that I have could potentially be make or break for me getting the top items that I want. It's kind of like nuclear warheads. We don't fire them at other countries because we know they'll fire them right back at us. It's mutually assured destruction. It's kind of like that in reverse. Because my competitors are doing it, I therefore have to do it. Now, one thing that was a huge decision for me going into this, knowing how bad the drop rate was going to be and trying to decide if I even wanted to mess with it, was, do I own CP shares? Well, yes, I own 1,500 plus CP shares. So because of that, I knew that I have essentially a rebate. So for whatever money I have to lose cycling to the tax, I knew that that was going to be offset by having a much larger than normal payout on my CP shares because of all the people that would be here hunting. Now, did I think it was going to be that big of a difference? No. Normally it makes me somewhere between like 15 to 30 ped a week, and it made me 480 ped. So that is a huge difference. Did I think it was going to be that big? Not nearly. I was thinking probably closer to 150 ped. So I'm kind of blown away by the payout. I guess I should have expected it to be bigger, but I was kind of guessing. I really wasn't putting numbers with it. Now, I'm also lucky in the fact that I've done fairly well, it seems. My variance hasn't been too horrible. I've gotten a couple of really good globals over the past couple of days pretty regularly, which has helped me kind of stay more baseline even. I've also been running a lot more than most people have. You'll notice there's not a lot of green dots on my radar. When the competition very first started, there were people everywhere. And then as the days have ticked by, people have just slowly kind of stopped coming. So the people that are here are the people who've probably been here the longest with me, because we really don't have a choice. We have to grind it out. This cat has been here all day. I don't even know who this is. Za. Oh, so Za's actually the one that got the Supremacy Foot Guards the other day. So Za has been here literally all day. I guess he's hoping for a second set. He has been here literally all day. I haven't had a day off work in a month, and I somehow magically got tonight off work. So it worked out great because I really didn't need to sleep. I slept for a couple hours this morning, and then I was right back up and right back to it. So because of that, there's just way fewer people here. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at the moment. At one point, there was roughly 80 to 100 people, and now there's like maybe 10. Of course, I'm in Dome 1, Domes 2, 3, and 4 are still open, but there's just not as many people in them. I think there was one person in Dome 2 earlier. So, needless to say, the event's been a disaster for anybody who doesn't own CP shares, anybody who competes in Mayhem, and anybody who is really working towards getting those items out of the vendor. They hate this. This was the worst idea ever. And if it wasn't for having so many CP shares, I'm really not sure I would have even done it. With the really low token drop rate, there's so many better things I had to do with my time. It was a mixture of the fact that tokens were dropping at all, and that I had so many CP shares, and that I needed access to the cave. That right there, those three real big decision chains all kind of converged to be like, okay, I'm just going to grind it out. If one of those three pieces had been missing, I would not have been here. Hands down, flat out, if one of those three had not been true, I would have just said no to this event all the way around. And part of the reason is I don't want to encourage Mindark to make decisions like this on the fly. The problem was not canceling Summer Mayhem. That was not the problem. The problem was canceling it without telling us, without giving us advance notice, with waiting to the last second, and then slapping us in the face by not putting out an announcement, but by instead putting it on PCF forum as a response to a question where somebody goes, yeah, we're not doing that this year. That was the problem. So when everybody got mad, Mindark turns around and they puts out this mini-mayhem event, which was horribly thought out. And then this gets a load screen. So clearly you can use the load screen to get information out to the player base. Well, why didn't you do that 6 weeks ago and announce that you were canceling Summer Mayhem? Last year when they canceled Summer Mayhem, guess what? They told us about it. They told us in advance. We didn't spend a lot of time and money gearing up for the event. We didn't blow out our ped cards buying thousands of pills and putting deposits on rental gear and buying armor plates that are really expensive. And they gave us a reason. They said it's not just because, it's because we need to retool Mayhem because the current system is not functioning, it's not fair, and we want to make it a better system. And you know what? Everybody was happy with that. Mindark totally missed the mark on this one. The fact that we weren't having Summer Mayhem wasn't the problem. It was the fact that we found out about it because you got on PCF and just said, oh yeah bro, that's not happening. Literally a week and a half before the event was supposed to start, after we've spent tens of thousands of ped getting ready for the event. That was the problem. Treating the customers like they are crap, like we're second rate, even though we hand you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to play this stupid game. That was the problem. You know what? If the paying customers are such a problem, we all need to get out of your way and just let you play with your shiny new toys. That will probably end up happening at some point if you keep it up. And guess what? Your shiny new toys aren't going to have any players to log into at that point. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need a new engine. We do. We do need Unreal 5. Desperately. This game needs a huge update as far as the entire thing, the entire framework, all of it. But keep this in mind. Customer service cannot be programmed. A new game engine is not going to solve the fact that you got on PCF and just said, bro, that's not happening, and totally disregarded all of your paying customers and acted like our money meant nothing. A new engine isn't going to solve that. And we're talking about a company so inept that this event should have been the easiest event ever. All they had to do was log in, hit make bosses or make creatures shared loot, and add item to loot pool Mayhem token, add item to loot pool rare Mayhem token. And then they had to set a drop rate for both of these items. So literally 3 things that should have been super easy to program. 2 new items in the loot pool with appropriate drop rates. And making everything share loot, which I'm sure can't take more than a single button press. And that was such a disaster that even an hour after the event started, they still couldn't get it right. I was watching from work while there were people on PCF putting out lifetime updates letting us know what was going on with the event as soon as the event started, and they were telling us for like an hour there are no tokens in the loot pool, no tokens are dropping. And one of the Mindark officials, Ludwig, the guy who got on PCF and said, oh no, I assure you tokens are dropping. Well, guess what? That's the same person that got on there and said, yeah, we're just not going to have the event. He gets on there, they say tokens aren't dropping. Yes they are, I can verify they are indeed dropping. They're like, bro, we're live on Twitch. We're live streaming. Come join the live stream. We promise you they are not dropping. And he goes quiet for about 20-30 minutes. Finally comes back. Oh, yeah, there's a problem with the tokens and the drop rate. It's fixed now. Okay, well, you should have known that. Huh, that's new. That's interesting. So, the fact that he did not know this was amazing in every sense of the word. So, think about what I'm telling you. If everything was already set up where all they had to do was make the creature shared loot, all they had to do was go into the loot pool and add rare Mayhem tokens and regular Mayhem tokens. That was it. That's all they did. And they couldn't even get that right. And then on top of that, they can't get customer service right at the most basic of levels. How am I supposed to believe they can get it right just because they have Unreal 5? The problem is not them working on a new game engine. The problem is the massive incompetence of Mindark mixed with the massive lack of care for the paying customers who keep their paychecks rolling in. So the only way I can really describe this is, let's imagine that you're a race car owner and you have somebody who drives for you for NASCAR, and of course you've got sponsors whose stickers are all over your car, and your driver keeps just blowing the clutch and the transmission out and blowing engines left and right. He's just burning up the clutch, grinding the gears. You're going through transmission after transmission, clutch after clutch. And then on top of that, to make matters worse, on top of that, he just keeps blowing engines left and right. So you're just going through all kinds of expenses and transmissions, and you can't get through a single race right. So you finally have a brand new car put together, and you decide we're not going to replace the transmission, we're not going to replace the clutch, we're not going to replace the engine. What we're going to do is we're just going to get a whole new race car. We're going to have it professionally built. It's going to be state of the art. Are you going to let that same driver drive that race car? No. Now, to make matters worse, imagine that driver comes to you and you're like, hey, we got you a brand new race car. There's no more fixing the transmission, no more fixing the clutch, no more fixing the engine. We just got you a whole new race car. It is literally top of the line. So try not to blow this one up. Our sponsors would really appreciate it. And they go, yeah, we don't really care about the sponsors. Would you have that person driving for you? Absolutely not. Well, they're our sponsors. We need their revenue. Yeah, screw them. Okay, well, the Indy 500 is coming up. Are you going to be in the Indianapolis 500? It's one of the biggest races of the year. It's in like 3 hours. No, I figured I'd go do something else. Okay, well, the sponsors are going to be really bad about that. Yeah, I don't care about them. But it is the Indianapolis 500. Yeah, I don't really give a crap. That person would be out of a job in 2 seconds. There's nobody in their right mind that would let that person drive for them. First of all, you wouldn't let them near the new car. Second of all, with that kind of an attitude towards one of the biggest events of the year and the sponsors that help make it possible, that put that money in your pocket, that put the new transmissions and new engines in those cars, there's no way anybody would keep them. You don't have to have any managerial experience. You don't have to have any experience running a business to know that the scenario I just gave you would be business suicide. And there's no way anybody in their right mind would let that person work for them or would let them drive a car, right? But isn't that exactly what Mindark's doing? They're taking the car and they've been replacing the clutch, they've been replacing the transmission, the engine, and they've kind of been piecing it back together, and they're saying, screw it, we're throwing it out all together. We're just going to buy a brand new race car. We're going to call it Unreal 5. And it's the best of the best of the best. Okay, but it's still you guys driving it. It's still you guys who can't figure out how to get the clutch and the transmission to work in unison. It's still you guys who, out of one of the biggest events of the year, Summer Mayhem, just at the very last second go, no, we're not going to drive that race car. Well, what about the sponsors who make all this possible? Yeah, screw them. That is literally the exact situation that Mindark is in. If it wouldn't work in NASCAR and it wouldn't work in any other business, how Mindark thinks it's going to work is beyond me. So don't misunderstand. I'm not saying we don't need a new game engine. We need a new game engine. The game needs a ton of upgrades and a ton of things changed and a ton of new content. I'm all about all that. But if you can't take care of making sure that the customers are actually aware that their money matters and you're not just taking their money and running, if the best customer service you have is just a response on PCF to, hey, we've been gearing up for one of the biggest events of the year for like weeks now, spending hundreds if not thousands of dollars. So when's that happening? Oh, bro, it's not. If that's the best that you got, then the new race car isn't going to save you. That race car is not going to drive itself. It's not going to drive its own laps around the Indianapolis Speedway. It's not going to win the race by itself. It has to have a driver. It has to have sponsors. And without a driver and without sponsors, you have nothing. You have a shiny new race car. And that is exactly what Mindark is doing with Unreal 5. So, do I hope I see more events like this? Absolutely not. I hope this is the first and only event of its kind. I hope this never happens again. It doesn't even deserve the name Mayhem. It is a complete and utter bastardization of Mayhem in every sense of the word. And I just think it was all around a horrible idea, and it's been a horrible event. It has been somewhat fun, I guess, but how much fun is it when really this is all you got? I just feel like I'm hunting and there's Mayhem tokens mixed in. It just doesn't give me the adrenaline rush. First of all, look how slow these kills are. In Mayhem, you need to be getting, for a real true blue Mayhem run, you need a kill every 4 to 5 seconds. Somewhere in there. Maybe 6. Now, I've had Mayhem runs that were slower than that, but generally speaking, for most Mayhem runs, for a real true blue Mayhem run, you're going to want a kill every 4, 5, 6 seconds, something like that. So this is not that. This is just hunting with Mayhem tokens dropped in the mix. So at least I hope this guy gives you guys a little bit more information about what's been going on, about what to expect with the CP shares and kind of why the payout is where it is, about what's happened with the event, the reasons I chose to be here, what my thought process was, but also more importantly, I hope you guys understand some of the reasons people would come to Crystal Palace in the first place. Why it was so obvious this was a great idea to buy into whenever they made the share system versus something like New Treasure Island, which had been a dead land area for years. No revenue, no real reason to be there. Yes, they did give it one, kinda, but even that was still just kinda, and it's limped along ever since, just like I said it would. So I also hope that I've kind of clarified Unreal is not the problem. Mindark is the problem. Their crappy customer service and the fact that they can't drive the race car to save their life, that is the problem. It's like they stuck somebody in the race car who doesn't know how to drive. Not just doesn't know how to drive stick, doesn't know how to drive at all. Again, if they can't even program make mob share loot, add rare mayhem tokens, add mayhem tokens, go, I don't know how they're going to program an entire game engine. In fact, I'm fairly well convinced I finally figured out the dirty little secret of Mindark. They don't actually program anything. I think they've outsourced it to somewhere like a third world country where they can get programming done on the cheap, and I think they sit around with a pen and paper sketching out designs for new FAPs and new guns and strategizing and synergizing and all those corporate buzzwords that you hear about, and I think they just have somebody else in a third world country program the game and then drop the update through the cloud, and then they just update it to the server and do the server reset. Because I can't understand any other reason for the utter incompetence when it comes to the game itself. Nobody that plays this game would have considered Crystal Palace a good place to have this event. So if the players wouldn't have considered that, why would the people who program it? They should know it more intimately than we do. We should not have to tell Mindark what horrible ideas they come up with. They are supposed to be sitting there programming the game, right? So therefore they should know how bad these ideas are. They should know it far more intimately than any of the players. But it seems that it's just the opposite. It seems they don't have a clue how to play or how to program it. And the big tell for me, I came up with this theory beforehand with a friend of mine. He's actually the one that kind of pointed out to me. But the big tell to me was when the event started and everybody's saying there's no tokens dropping, and Ludwig says, oh no, I can tell you the tokens are definitely dropping. And they're like, bro, no, we're streaming it live on Twitch, come watch. And then like 30 minutes later, he's like, oh, it's fixed. They're people that are actually programming the game in a third world country, most likely, because that's usually where you can get the cheapest programming done, told him it was good to go. The event started, and oh no, we're Mindark. We're the ones programming it. We're sitting here looking at it in real time. We're the ones in control of the game. We definitely didn't outsource this to somewhere else. And somehow it got screwed up. Things didn't go on time. They had to make an emergency call to whatever third world country the game's actually being programmed in, wherever the code is actually being changed. It had to get fixed, and it took 30 to 45 minutes to get that fix implemented and updated so that the tokens would indeed drop. There's no reason Ludwig should not have been sitting there watching it in real time. If he's programming it, if Mindark is truly sitting there pulling the levers behind the scenes, then he should have been able to tell in real time who was looting tokens when. And if nobody had looted a token yet, it should have been painfully obvious to him. So the fact that there was that 30-minute gap in there and that statement was made at all and was incorrect tells me that at some point, to some extent, Mindark has outsourced the actual programming. Now, to what extent, I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if anybody at Mindark actually has programmed any of this game, or if all of the original OG programmers are gone and it's all been outsourced and it's nothing but a design team now. I can sketch everything out on paper. I can draw a new Bob and come up with the damage types I want and all the specs for it, and then I can send it off to somebody else to code. And in fact, that would probably be the cheapest way to do it. From a business standpoint, that would make much more sense than paying somebody to sit in the Mindark office and code it, because you're talking pennies versus dollars. But it does not seem like they're programming the game anymore, which makes me wonder who's programming Unreal 5, because it's definitely not Mindark. It doesn't seem like they even programmed this version of it, so how would they be programming Unreal 5? But needless to say, that aside, they can have it outsourced all they want. I think that's a great idea. It would save them money. It would make the game more efficient. It would allow them to put in a lot of new content a lot faster. So I am all about outsourcing it if it can be done well, can be done safely, and can make money. However, Mindark does need to know how the game works. They do need to know the mechanics. They do need to know how to drive the race car. Because without knowing how to drive the race car and without caring to drive the race car does no good. So I do have high hopes. I really hope they get their act together, and I really hope we never see another event like this. And I'm just going to leave it for there because I know this video has gone longer than normal by a mile. So guys, for everybody at earnped.com, smack, smack, sip, sip, y'all know the rest. I've been StevieB. Be sure and hit that bell icon and subscribe to the channel. Be sure and hit that like button because there's always a hater out there hitting the dislike button, so every like matters a tremendous, tremendous amount. We appreciate every single like just as much as we appreciate every in-game message from our viewers thanking us for putting the videos out and telling us what it's done for their gameplay. It means a ton, guys. Also, be sure and check out earnped.com because when you earn, we earn. That's by far the best way you can help support us. We know we are not the only place out there that will allow you guys to do micro tasks to earn ped. We know we weren't even the first, but the fact that you continue to use our site, the fact that you continue to deliberately earn with us in order to help us further our goals in game and keep creating content and keep doing all this stuff, that is what really keeps us going. That is what helps us out tremendously. And we know you have a choice in who you use for stuff like that, so the fact that you use us does indeed mean a ton. Guys, for earnped.com, I've been StevieB, sip, sip, smack, smack, and we will see y'all later. Take care, guys.